As you probably know, I recently bought the UK's cheapest John Cooper works, and it's provided us with some challenges along the way, but as you would have seen in the last video, we finally got us started. Yes! Come on! Come on! And that leaves us here, fresh off holiday. We know that engine starts, but before we get any further with that, we've got a lot of stuff to do, so let's get into it. So the next step to rebuilding this car, it's got to be this radiator pack. I scoured the internet for hours and hours trying to find a fully complete rad pack with this whole crash section. Could not find one for a JCW anywhere, as there is slight differences between normal Coopers obviously and Cooper S's. So let me show you what we did instead. So this is what I decided to buy. I found a second-hand, pretty much brand new, genuine JCW intercooler. And for these three parts to make up the rad pack, I went over to Autodoc, got a brand new radiator, brand new AC, and a brand new fan. And hopefully, with all that, I'm hoping I'll be able to make a rad pack. No idea how it goes together, but I guess we'll find out. So like an absolute idiot, I had the GoPro set up on photo mode and took over 500 photos doing this. But here's the proof of me putting the intercooler on. Right, intercooler's on after absolutely fighting with these stupid C-clips on the intake hose all the way down here. They're a nightmare, honestly. The designer of those just, yeah, he deserves all of hell. But what's next? I'm not sure. We'll give it a go. After a quick look at my old bananaed fan and radiator, it looks like it just kind of clips onto the actual fan shroud itself. I've never built a rad pack in my life, so we're absolutely winging it here, as I've said many times. So we'll see. And once again, I had the GoPro in photo mode. So the idea here was to slide the radiator and fan down into position and connect the hoses as it was on its way in. But it proved to be a little harder than I thought, but we still got it done. And just like that, the fan, the radiator and the intercooler is on. Not as bad as I thought actually. You subbed up, as you saw, the radiator to the fan, drop that in, and yeah, just 2 bolts at the top, obviously all your hoses. I am missing, actually let me flip the camera around and I'll show you. So I am actually missing the little C-clip for this rad hose. When I was taking it apart, it flung off. I cannot find it for the life of me, so need to get a new clip there. There's coolant hose down there, that's all clamped up. One there, that's all in. But yeah, apart from that, she's starting to look a bit more like a car. And that is all I can get done for tonight. But look at this, it's starting to look a bit more like a car. I'd love to rip the AC condenser on, but I don't have time. But that doesn't matter to you lot, because you're about to see it in the next clip anyway. The next day rolled around and I got to work fitting this AC rad. It was simple, just hooked on, and all there was to do was connect 2 hoses and tighten them up. Next up was the new crash bar, simply just bolted into place with 4 bolts, and that was it. This is why I wish I parked my car the other way, so I could shut this door and not get wet. Look at this, starting piece by piece to look a bit more like a JCW. I need to get a vacuum filler, because apparently that's how you fill the coolant up on these. So I'm not going to continue with the front end until I've got that, but there's plenty more jobs to do, so let's get cracking. Obviously, when I was trying to get this engine to start, I disconnected the fuel pump for the cranking reasons. So it was time to bolt down the cover to the fuel pump and get the seat back in.
I'm waiting for Jake so we can go to our friend's house. We were supposed to be there at 6. It is 7. Yeah.
We're going now. So it is the next day, and it dawned on me last night that I fitted this crash bar and I forgot to fit the small secondary radiator that the JCW has. So yeah, that's not ideal, but I think I'll still be able to get to it even with the crash bar in the way. I got too excited. So this small section here is the part that actually holds on the secondary radiator, and it is literally just a simple bolt-on part, but mine doesn't have the hole there, so we're going to get the drill out. We're going to drill a hole so we can mount this bracket and get the cooler on. Once the hole was drilled, it was just a case of lining the bracket up, putting the bolt through, and tightening it up. And while I was down by that side of the car, I saw this piece of plastic needed replacing, so just put a new one on. So this bracket here, because this is off a normal Mini, doesn't have this extra bracket here, but luckily it's just 2 bolts, rip it out, put it on the new one, and we're good to go. With that extra bracket installed, it was time to put the radiator in and finally bolt it up and sort these hoses out. But as you can see in this clip here, the hoses are in a bit of an awkward place to get to, especially with the crash bar on. So once I got the smaller hose on, I set my attention to the longer hose that goes behind the crash bar. And oh boy, this was hard. But with a bit of force and perseverance, we got it done. As you can see, it's getting light outside, but Jesus, this secondary, you can't even see it. I can't even show you where it is. This secondary hose was so hard to get on. It's such a pain to get to, but we're getting there. Another productive evening working on the Mini. We're getting there, but with these dark nights and the way I've parked the car, it's just getting impossible to record, and I want to try and make it as good as quality as I can for you guys watching. But let's go over what we've just done. So we've now got this full secondary intercooler in place with the shroud, little air ducts, horn, and the actual coolant pipes going to the rad behind the crash bar. So yeah, and I sorted out some of this wiring, so yeah, it's getting there. So you probably remember me saying I'm missing this clip for this little hose here, and it took me ages. I was trying to find one on the internet. They only sell it with the pipe, and I ordered some off Amazon. They might not even be the right size, but I'm pretty sure they will be. Anyway, I've come home tonight. I thought, I'll just have a quick look for it, and I saw something on the gearbox. Tiny little clip, exactly what I needed. Typical. Now I finally got that clip. That is the cooling system done. Just need to add coolant, but we'll get to that. Next up was the small brake ducts. Exactly the same as the other side. Remove the bracket, slide the new duct in, bolt it up. Swiftly moving on to the washer bottle. That just drops in, a few bolts, a few plugs, job's done. And then it was finally time to fit the front slam panel on the top of the rads. Just bolts on both bonnet hinges, line them up, bolt straight in with 5 bolts. Next up was the bonnet cable, just hooked up to that box and clipped in. And then I moved on to fitting the airbox with the MAF sensor in the hopes that this would help the car run a bit better. And would you look at that? Got this top slam panel on, all nice. Bonnet latch all done. It pulls nicely on the latch. Washer bottle in, air intake in. There's just little things to do, like the battery compartment separator, bolt it down here. The V-brace that goes on the front here. Yeah, class. But really we need to wait for the vacuum bleeder and the coolant to arrive so we can do that. And then it's onto the suspension. My strange contraption of a vacuum filler has arrived. Done some YouTubing. I think I know how it works. We'll find out. So for the people who don't know, let me try and explain vacuum filling to the best of my ability. It's a modern method used on a lot of new cars nowadays to reduce the chance of air locks in the cooling system. This works by the device sitting on the top of the coolant tank and applying compressed air across the top of the system, pulling a vacuum out of the cooling system, meaning no air whatsoever. And then, as you can see here, you add your tube into the coolant tank, and as you release the vacuum, it pulls just pure coolant through and into the system with no air locks whatsoever. I think my Amazon vacuum bleeder did the job. It's up to the max line now. I'm just giving the pipes a squeeze in case there is any air. I'm going to put the cap back on, and then there's actually another bleed procedure that you have to do electronically for the water-cooled turbo. It's to bleed that apparently, so we'll see. So here I have the bleeding procedure for the water pump. Switch on ignition, switch low beam headlight, set the heating to max temp, blower to smallest stage. Press the accelerator for 10 seconds, engine must not be started. The bleeding procedure will take place approx 12 minutes. I have no idea if what I just did that, but the engine's on, the headlights are on, so I guess it's bleeding. So I'll be back in 12 minutes and see what the result is. And there we go. After running her up to temp, she's just under the max mark. We'll see what it's like when it cools down, but that is good news. I know what you're all thinking. Yes, this engine has a knock. I've seen the comments and I do agree with you now. I thought it was something else, but I'll give it you. Yes, I was being naive. I've got some deep investigating to do, so I'm going to leave you with this clip and I'll catch you in the next one.